Hi guys, Reform UK is the successor, as we know, to the Brexit Party, and Nigel Farage's outfit put immigration front and centre as a motivation to leaving the EU. Reform has a safe space on GB News, so how they approach the issue of asylum seekers and migrants will be promoted there. So when anti-immigration protests took place in Dublin this week, GB News saw an opportunity to amplify the idea that Ireland's social problems are a result of immigration and its EU membership. GB News reporter Dougie Beattie, who I've compared to a DUP spokesman in the past, was on hand to make sure viewers were informed.
The last time we spoke, you talked of over 10,000 ordinary working-class local Dubliners who've turned up, a heavy police presence. What's the latest and why are they there, Duke?
Okay, how does he know that they're all working class? 10,000 people are there, and did he interview every one of those 10,000 and discover their social class and determine that each of them are working class? Okay.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome to Dublin. It is one of the most beautiful cities in Ireland, and it is overflowing according to the population here. They're saying no more immigration, we can't take any more, and this has been going on for years and years, but over the last 2 years I've been very much covering it, and I have seen the council houses, the waiting lists. They are getting more and more for everyday local Dublin people, and indeed Irish people right across. In fact, last week we were in a beautiful place called Wicklow at a small town there, and of course migrants have now been put into there as well. This is the people here behind are really saying, look, Ireland is Irish and our culture and social status is being eroded because of the mass migration or immigration into Ireland. And they have come out in their thousands today to protest about it. And then, of course, earlier on we spoke to Herman Kelly, who's the head of the Irish Freedom Party, and I asked him the question, would it be wise for Simon Harris, the Taoiseach, the Irish Prime Minister, to have accepted Rishi's offer of joining the Rwanda scheme? And he said most definitely it was. But of course the problem is the people here very much see as if in the last 100 years they've got rid of British rule only to take on European rule and European laws. And of course that is affecting their housing, their hotels, their hospitals, everything down the line. And today, in fact...
Okay. First of all, I want to criticize the reporting here. Notice how he talked about how he visited a beautiful or a lovely village, and then he mentioned how the immigrants were being put in. And then he talked about how Dublin is a beautiful city, one of the most beautiful in Ireland, and then talked about the immigrants coming in. Notice the subtlety in the rhetoric there. Now, when it comes to public services, like hospitals, like housing, issues like that, this is the responsibility of the Irish government. It's nothing to do with the European Union. The European Union doesn't decide how many houses are built and what type of houses are built, whether they be social housing, affordable housing, or whatever. Ireland has a massive problem with housing, and this is the responsibility of the Irish government, not the European Union. You know, we always hear about how the European Union is forcing member states to do X, Y, and Z. Well, you know, wouldn't it be great if the European Union forced the Irish government to build affordable and social housing? But they don't. That's the responsibility of the Irish government. When it comes to hospitals, if there aren't enough staff, Ireland has had a massive problem with staffing hospitals over the last number of decades. Decades I'm talking about. When I was growing up, I remember hearing stories about, you know, people lying on trolleys for days because there weren't beds available. Why are there no beds available? Because they don't have enough staff. Because they don't want to pay nurses enough. There are other issues. But this is nothing to do with immigration. Now, immigration is an issue, yes. But what are the solutions being presented? Because if you ask these people, they say, well, we just need to close the border. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. Can you come up with an actual rational solution to this? What is your solution? No, there are reasonable concerns about immigration and the impact it's having on housing. When it came to the war in Ukraine, a massive number of people came in. Was there housing available? Not enough. Now, as I said, this is the responsibility of the Irish government. The Irish government, unfortunately, has been dragging its heels over the last 13, 14 years when it came to housing. They haven't invested enough in affordable and social housing. This has resulted in many Irish people leaving the country because they simply can't afford to live in cities like Dublin. It's cheaper to move abroad than to try and make a living, start a family or whatever in Ireland, in Dublin in particular. But who is responsible for this? Is it the immigrants? Is it the European Union? No, it's the Irish government. Now, are these people complaining to the Irish government about not producing enough social and affordable housing? No, they're complaining about immigrants. As I said, there are two sides to this argument when it comes to immigration. There are real concerns about integrating people, about providing enough social and affordable housing, and making sure that communities can work together. And then there are the other side who just want, who are basically racists, who don't care about facilitating. Because I keep asking this question. When somebody brings up the issue of immigration, you have to push back on them and ask them, what are you doing to help resolve this? And resolve it in a humane way, not about ridiculous ideas like, well, you just close the border. Okay, but that's not going to work. Oh, well, then we leave the European Union. Well, that's not going to work. Because look at what's happening in Britain. The Brexiteers told British people we need to vote to leave the European Union to bring down immigration. Well, what's happened? Well, with the outflux of EU workers, it meant that many public services and hospitality, farming or whatever had to bring in workers from abroad, from outside the European Union. We need immigration to grow our economies. We need immigration if in Europe the aging population is increasing and the population of younger people is decreasing. If we want to maintain salaries, pensions, public services, social care, stuff like that, we need to bring in people. We're not having enough children ourselves, if you want to put it that way. So the alternative is to bring in immigrants. Now, we need to have public services that are able to take on those numbers. Exactly. I completely agree with that position. But that's the responsibility of the government. If the government is not doing that, then you need to complain to the government. You need to ask them to do something about it. Provide social housing. Pay doctors, nurses higher wages so you're able to keep them in the country, so that the public services can be maintained. Because the arguments from the likes of the Irish National Party or whatever, or the Brexiteers in Britain, is, well, we just close the borders. We force these people out. We prioritize Irish people. These are non-solutions. As we saw with Brexit, it grabs a headline saying we just prioritize our own people, or we've closed the borders or something like that. But these things don't work in practice. And unfortunately, the likes of GB News and others are jumping on this bandwagon. You see, here's an opportunity for us to push this narrative. Ireland should leave the European Union. The European Union is at fault here. It's their fault for bringing in all these people, for producing enough social and affordable housing or whatever. That's the narrative. Because they have to continually believe that Brexit was a success, when obviously it hasn't. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.